Queuay is pronounced C.
Far, far away, the Star Wars saga began, and Kenner continues the excitement.
Star Wars figures.
The Empire Strikes Back turn of the Jedi.
Welcome to the Star Wars Collector's Archive podcast. It's the Chivecast. Your newest news on the oldest toys, from bubble bath to belt buckles, from 12 packs to 2 packs.
New boss, alien bounty hunter.
From the Star Wars collection.
Watch out, Black Vader!
We bring the world of vintage Star Wars memorabilia alive with informative features and personal collecting stories.
Offer expires December 31st, 1979.
And R2-D2 with stethoscope.
The Supreme Master, the Emperor.
Brought to you by the Star Wars Collector's Archive. Skye and Steve walk the plank with Weequay this month and discuss his Dawn Post mask, his connection to Moby Dick, his cardback image, his original nameplate, his Blue Harvest faux prototypes, phototypes, and his original fate. Phidias Barrios joins to talk about his amazing run of our favorite sandy-wrinkled noble sailor of the Dune Sea. And he fights with Tommy, Money Train, Garvey in a spectacular market watch. Enjoy more Garvey action as Katie's brother explains the newest feature on the archive, the Community Digest. Plus, we end up talking about some old toy stores in Kentucky, and Skye says at least 3 objectively inflammatory things that are probably wrong. On this month's episode of Steve's Vintage Toys Collecting the Archive with Skye and People. And Stephen B. Danley. Wampa Wampa.
Welcome to Chivecast 89.
So what is our figure of the month, Steve?
Weequay. Yeah, you weren't too keen on him at the end of the last main episode. You didn't seem too excited, but I'm hoping that I'll change your mind by the end of this.
Steve? I am flipping the script on you.
Oh.
I've already changed. I've already decided that I love Weequay.
All right, good. That's
I did
good to
some
hear.
research today, and I thought about it. And I just realized I can't even pretend to do the thing of where halfway through I go, you know what, this character is kind of cool. This isn't like Klaatu, okay? Klaatu is just lame. I'm never going to like Klaatu. I'm never going to like Nikta or Barada. All 3 of those are losers. Right. Weequay is absolutely awesome.
Yeah. All right,
for reasons which will become interesting. Now, you sent me your outline. I have a whole bunch of things to say. You have some things to say.
Yes.
What do you mean when you say Weequay's true name, ...
All right, so something that's always kind of bugged me with like later Star Wars naming conventions is the need to give every character a specific name for that individual, right? And it gets really weird with Return of the Jedi characters because the names that they're giving, like Weequay, Nikto, blah blah, those ones are kind of obscure and strange. Whereas, like, they still go with Squidhead in the same line. So they're, like, just trying to decide which way you're going is kind of muddy. And with Weequay, I figured out that that's a species and not an actual name for that character.
Yes.
So that's the first part. And where that came from was, the character of Queequeg in Moby Dick, which I guess kind of makes sense visually. They both have the braided hair and are pretty tough looking guys.
That's cute. You thought that it was going to stop there?
No, it's not going to stop there.
You thought you could just mention Moby Dick and we just go skating on by?
No,
Steve?
see, I knew that was going to come back around. But
okay, because I'm just sitting here, I cannot wait to talk about Melville. Okay, yes.
Yeah, I knew we were going to get to that, but anyway, so the specific Weequay that is represented by the vintage figure, he was known as Queequeg number 2 during production.
Really?
And,
so this is the one that's on the cardback.
Yeah, so
if you can't picture the vintage Kenner cardback, it's an image of Weequay, and he's holding onto his spear, and it's kind of like a low angle, and he's on the skiff, and he's kind of a nice silhouette. And so this is Queequeg number 2.
Right. And that image from the cardback is used in a lot of places. It's in lobby cards. I feel like it's in one of those weird pocket calendars that we talked about way back. I mean, it's used everywhere. And what was really funny to me, sometimes I'll do this just out of curiosity. I'll see if there's some funny or stupid, like, now canonized name for these characters. Yes. And he did get officially named, I think like 5 years ago. And I just there's just so many things wrong with this. His name now is Paghetti Rook. So like spaghetti without the S, Rook. And all I could think of is Forrest Whitaker just saying, Paghetti Rook. It's just so silly. And I don't know. I mean,
Paghetti?
I just don't know what to say to that. Paghetti. P-A-G-E-T-T-I.
Yeah, no, he's just Weequay.
He's just Weequay, right? Yeah. Okay. Good. So yeah, back to Moby Dick. Before you go on your essay, yes. I will say that like my dad is probably still completely obsessed with the 1956 John Huston movie, and he literally forced us as children to watch that at least once a year growing up.
I've never seen the movie.
Really? Yeah, I'm sure I haven't seen it in years, but when we were kids, he would literally force us to try and watch it, and I would always fall asleep within 5 minutes and then wake up for when the whale is killing everybody. Right. So that was my whole memory. But I'll have to. You should revisit it. I'm sure it's interesting now. All this time later. But all right. So I've set up your Melville.
Well, okay. So I mean, first of all, I read Moby Dick as a book on tape. Okay. I used to be really afraid of flying, and I used to live in LA, and my goal was to be like the dude, just without the drugs. So I didn't really have a job. I didn't really do anything. And whenever I'd have to go back to Boston, I'd just drive home, right?
So that way you could keep the bathroom on too, right? Yeah. But you didn't.
So that was how I did it.
Okay.
And that was fun because I would go to the library and I would get books on tape, right? And I would just get, and the idea would be you want to get a book on tape that's like interesting but not, that's engaging but not stupid, smart but not impossible. And I can tell you, Moby Dick is the perfect book for going across the country. There's passages where you're just like, I get it. Though there's a whale. I mean, there's like literally the entire state of Nebraska was nothing other than just the whale, the whale, the whale.
Describing.
But it's an amazing book, and Queequeg is maybe the most interesting character. So Ismail is the famous character, the famous narrator,
the protagonist.
And Queequeg is this guy he runs into in the very beginning, and Melville had him from a place called Rokovoko, which is a fictional Polynesian island, and as Melville says, it's not down on any map. True places never are, which I think is kind of an interesting idea. And he's like this cannibal,
right?
But he's actually a prince from his own land. So
he's noble. Right. He's like a regal guy. Presence,
right.
Yeah.
And so this gets me fascinated because it makes me think if we just assume that Weequay, the toy, that this is his story, that he's actually a prince among Weequay.
I like that. Yeah.
And in a way, he's kind of like Luke. Like he sets out for adventure. That's what Queequeg is like. He sets out for adventure and he runs into everybody. The
question is the Sarlacc Moby Dick?
Right. And that's the thing is that it all kind of falls apart when we get there.
Yeah.
So he goes from a future king to a harpooner, but he's like a great harpooner. Another quote from Melville, they made a harpooner of him, and that barbed iron was in lieu of a scepter now. So he's this really great character, is completely tattooed. Like his face is totally tattooed, and he's got this crazy hair, absolutely 100% the influence on Weequay, although I looked it up, Steve, and as far as I can tell, the character was named Queequeg by the cast, not by Kenner.
Right. Yeah, it was during the production of the movie. Yeah, they had a couple of those guys with those kind of masks. I think there's at least one other one on the Skiff, and there's some others. And that was like the filming name for him.
Right. And so that's just interesting because we're going to get into Skiff Guard versus Weequay later.
Yeah, right.
And then the final quote that makes me love So basically, Weequay is like the great American novel Star Wars toy. That's the way we can think about him.
I like that. Yeah,
and the line, what happens is, Queequeg and Ishmael almost kill each other. It's right in the beginning too. I mean, it's the first 15 chapters. You don't have to get too far. I mean, his story is interesting later. And then they sleep together, like in the same bed, and like they wake up.
Like the bunk.
Yeah, and it's kind of like very affectionate. It's like this really funny moment. And here's this great thing of like overcoming the tribalism and the fraternity of the waves and all that. And they go off and they have all these adventures together. And Ishmael says one of his more famous lines, "Better to sleep with a sober cannibal than a drunken Christian." And something about that is a beautiful line about all this kind of relativism and the fact that he is a cannibal and he is this dangerous character who is at the same time noble. So while I did not like Klaatu Nikto Barada because I thought it was the first example of fan service, I don't think this is. I think this is actually just making a background character seem more interesting. What do you think, Steve?
No, I'd agree I think so too. I think we talked about that in the Klaatu episode. That was definitely more. This is to me this means more. I think. And there's more of like a visual connection to clearly.
And I'm going to show this in the enhanced version and on the podcast and all that. There are images of Queequeg on the Pequod, which is the name of the ship, that exactly mirror this cardback art. I mean, the same angle, and he's holding on to a spear. I mean, that's the thing. Weequay is actually holding on to a spear, just like Queequeg is. So it's and he's on this skiff, and it makes this interesting thing where you realize that the sands of Tatooine are actually like the ocean. And I've always sort of thought about the sail barge as being like a boat, but not really. This really it becomes clear how much it's like a boat. It's like this weird inverse, and like you said, the Sarlacc is like a kraken in a way. And wait a minute, the Clash of the Titans had come out before that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So maybe Lucas was ripping off. No. So yeah, that's another way. Oh, Steve, you want to hear a hot take?
Yeah. Sure.
The Jabba sail barge that Hasbro is trying to make.
Oh, yeah.
I've been getting like 50 emails a day about this thing. People saying, "Skye, what do you think? Isn't this great?"
Good. I haven't gotten any. I'm glad that they're going to you.
It's stupid. It's not worth $500. Okay, take $500 and buy a good Star Wars toy. Buy Lego. Hasbro doesn't make good toys anymore. Okay. The Black Series, they have a couple okay things, and the lightsabers are okay, but $500 because you really wanted a Skiff Barge when you were a kid. Just save your money. It's just not that cool, everybody. It's just not. Anyway, my controversial opinions. Ooh, second controversial opinion, Steve.
Oh, all right.
Actually, that's not true. I am. It is too bad that Toys R Us is going out of business.
Yeah. That's one of those things where I didn't really have one around growing up so much.
No, you didn't.
Santa Barbara didn't have Toys R Us. Yeah, but
it's. I call it, the big fish nostalgia, where we have nostalgia for the companies that ate the companies that we actually liked. So there was Belmont Toys, which I liked in Belmont, and then Toys R Us moved into Cambridge, and that just ate up Belmont Toys, and now Toys R Us is leaving, and I feel terrible about that. But I don't know. It's not that great, but I do have a fair amount of good memories with it. And the main problem is that I would go to Midnight Madness with my kids.
Yeah.
And they gave out the exclusive posters, and my son is like anxious because he has the Kylo Ren one, he has the Guerrilla Walkers one, and he was just waiting for the Episode 9 one to come out, and now it'll never be made.
Man, that is a bummer.
In that way, I'm sad about it. But whatever, we're vintage collectors, so we don't need to spend that much time on Toys R Us or sail barges. There's so much vintage exploitation, Steve. We can't even keep up.
No, it's really it's ramping up again. I feel like we're in like a second wave of it almost.
Because I don't even write it down for the show, Steve. There was Walmart released an Ottoman.
Yeah, that's right.
It was covered.
Yeah. Had the vintage character, the vintage figures on it, didn't it?
It did. And there's like a new calendar that came out that's all vintage figures.
Yeah, and aren't there some like enamel pins that are shaped like the vintage figures coming out that are like officially licensed things that seem very like Celebration swaggish, but now they're official.
And there were these weird cups made for Valentine's Day with vintage figures.
That's right. I forgot about those.
So I think it's safe to say that the vintage exploitation is now completely mainstreamed, and we're going to see more and more the representations of the Kenner toys as just being representations of Star Wars. Like, it's going to slowly replace the stock drawings that we have of Harrison Ford and Darth Vader, and this is going to be good for our collecting, Steve.
Yeah, I mean it is weird to see, but it's good in a way too. So
you see, I was able to move past. That wasn't too long on Queequeg, was it?
No, that was. I feel like that was pretty concise.
Well, it got me excited because it reminded me how much I love that book. I need to reread it, and it's like you said, it makes this character interesting. Another thing, Steve.
Yeah.
Another kind of hot take that goes against something I've said in the past. I was kind of an idiot for being so against Rebels. Because
so you've turned around on that.
Well, let me tell you, how spoiled do you have to be for there to be even a passable TV show that has Mandalorians and Jedi and Stormtroopers and Star Destroyers and just be like, it's not as good as the last one like that. You know, like, how spoiled are we getting as Star Wars fans?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I think, I mean, I never got completely invested in it, but I will say that, just like you said, if you really do kind of take it for granted, especially now that it's over.
And so we just watched the last season. We missed like a season and a half in there. But the kids and I watched the last season and we totally loved it. And it reminded me of something that they do that the new movies don't do, which is give respect to Rick Baker's aliens and give respect to, the Tippett monsters. It's like, it's so frustrating. And we've talked about it before, The Last Jedi and Force Awakens. Okay, I'm glad they're not all hammerheads and walrus manses, but how come there's none? So
at least you did have an Akbar guy in Rogue One, but that's like the farthest that they've gone with it. That's it.
That's it. And in Rebels, they forget it, man. Every chance they get, they have the character Hondo from Clone Wars.
Right, he's a Weequay,
and he's awesome, and he's one of the best new characters they created. And his sidekick in Rebels, Steve, is this Ugnaught.
Right, yeah.
And my kids, every time he's on screen, they jump up and scream because they love pigs. They're vegetarians. They don't eat meat because of pigs in Minecraft. It's a whole story. But all of a sudden, just watching these last couple episodes, it made me like Ugnaughts more. It made me like Weequay more, and Rebels, I think, is going to help over the long term make sure that some of these perhaps forgotten aliens that are being forgotten by the next generation because of these new movies will stay in the consciousness, not just from the original trilogy, but because I could see being a little kid liking Hondo because he's like, sometimes he's good, sometimes he's bad, what is he? And then deciding I'm going to collect vintage figures and being like, oh, look, Weequay, that's what Hondo was. This is like collecting Hondo, but for old guys. Oh, and I'm also going to pick up some Ugnaughts, too. So
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, they really are kind of compensating for the lack of representation in the movies. It is really neat to see.
Yeah, and especially the Ugnaughts. Oh, my God, that little guy is so cute. So I think it's better this way. I mean, I've never intentionally changed my mind on a character halfway through the episode. And I swear to God, next month is Squidhead, Steve, and if I change my mind on Squidhead or reuse, you'll really know there's something wrong with me because I hate those figures.
This will be my struggle for the next few episodes, just trying to defend. The characters
if
you hate.
Episode 100 is like reuse, I'm gonna quit the podcast.
I think you're safe. I don't know if it's going to land on a milestone, but yeah.
Oh man,
Let's see.
I like having fun, Steve. This has been fun, but why don't you tell us? Do you have? Well, I mean, I don't think there's anything we necessarily need to say about the figure right now. We'll talk about the figure later.
Yeah,
and we'll get to it.
Right.
But what do you have to say about a script to flip? And then I play a really stupid drop that goes like this.
It's getting really, really hot in here.
Flip the script. Flip the script.
All right. So we had mentioned that the whole thing with the Sarlacc being the whale and all that kind of falls apart, at that point. But in the draft of the script, the revised draft from 1981, the first part where what this character from is kind of prodding Luke off the gangplank, right? So he's there, he's pushing Luke off, and in that early version, Luke doesn't have his lightsaber at all. He's just unarmed.
Really?
There's no lightsaber in the picture whatsoever, and so he does his little double flip, and he uses the Force to steal a gun from one of the other guys and start shooting the other skiff guards. And it just this will kind of make sense in a second, but Weequay, or the guy who's kind of prodding him off the plank, he is described as losing his balance and falling into the Sarlacc's mouth. And what I realized is that when you go back and actually watch the movie, Paghetti Rook, or Weequay
2.
He just kind of Weequay 2. He just kind of disappears. His fate is a mystery.
Really?
Yeah. So like I watched it again. Like what the hell happened to him? And sure enough, like you see every other guy who's on that skiff eventually end up falling out into the pit. But all you see of Queequeg 2 is him kind of just standing confusedly on the plank in this really long, long shot of Luke just slashing at everybody. You just kind of see him standing there, and then that's it. You never see him again. And I just thought that was really funny. Like, he must have survived.
Weequay lives.
Like, doesn't Queequeg survive in the end, or do they all die? I can't remember.
Oh, golly. Well, let's not spoil it.
Let's not spoil it. Anyway.
But we know that Queequeg 2 lives.
Yes, there's no on-screen death for Queequeg 2. And one of the editors of the movie had said that whole sequence was just a real pain in the butt to put together. And I think it was Dwayne Dunham, who was one editor, and then Sean Barton was another, and then even George. They were all three working on it to try and put it together and make sense of it. And they kind of forgot about Queequeg 2.
Much gibberish, but they forgot about Queequeg. Yeah, that is really cool, because now, Steve, I can finally write my fan fiction about Queequeg 2, about Weequay.
Yeah.
And
does he go back to being a prince?
Well, maybe he goes back to, or maybe he ends up like going on another adventure to sort of try and like avenge himself or be on the right side of things. I mean, we don't know if he's good or bad, right? He's just on this job.
Yeah, we don't.
He's just this guy.
Right. Did you have some poetry?
I do, Steve. I've thought about this, and I was writing it today, and my son looked over at the computer. He's like, "You writing a Skye-Ku about Weequay?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." The Dune Sea Sailor. Weequay guards skiff above waves. Wrinkles filled with sand.
Man, he does have a wrinkly face, doesn't he?
He does, and that's what sort of replaced the tattoos on his.
Yeah,
they took Queequeg's tattoos and just made him super wrinkly. But I just like the idea of him. I actually spent a lot of time on this Skye-Ku. Just calling him the Dune Sea Sailor, I think is nice. And then the Weequay guards skiff above waves, wrinkles filled with sand, and just that's the nature of this character, wrinkles filled with sand. I can imagine him on one of these little ships traveling over the sand for months and months. So that's my Skye-Ku.
Beautiful.
I feel like I'm finally sort of getting back. I forget who it is who sent us all of the sound drops that we lost. But he sent us all the sound drops, and then I said thanks, and then I forgot to download them. And then last month I emailed him again and said, "Hey, could you send me the sound drops?" And then I forgot to download them, and it expired again.
Oh, Skye.
Listen, okay, Well,
The good thing is they're
they're
safe.
safe, and we'll give him a full hooray. I actually realize what I'm doing right now. I have my copy of Kellerman out, and I'm actually I have my water glass just on top of the Kellerman. And I realize I get in a lot of fights on Facebook with newer collectors who are like, Kellerman's not that great. That's worth $400. Like, there's a book by Belomo that's like just as good, and it's only $50, and like you can get it right now. And I just
That's a new voice for you. I don't think I've heard that
good.
one before.
It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I just Kellerman is absolutely worth $400. Don't buy it if you don't want to, but definitely if you're thinking about pulling the trigger on that Jabba's barge, and you don't have a copy of Kellerman, get a copy of Kellerman instead. It truly is good enough of a book. You are going to hear us talk to Tommy Garvey.
Money Train.
Was originally going to be the third chair on this show. Even was probably the first person I thought of as a permanent co-host. And yet we've never had him on the show without having 4 other people on. So we're going to have him on to talk about what he's doing on the archive, because he is doing great stuff on the archive. But let's hear from him on the other side of this universe. What?
है कोई ओ बाबू समझे क्या ओ लाला समझे क्या खिलाड़ी है कोई अनाड़ी है कोई जिंदगी है खेल कोई पास कोई फेल खिलाड़ी.
This is going to be fascinating, Steve, because listeners to episode number 89, the real episode number 89, have just heard me say, okay, we're going to talk to Tommy now. In real time, we just talked to his sister for 20 minutes about nail polish, which was our April Fool's joke. But Tommy's phone is absolutely terrible, and it kept on breaking, and so the whole
That
thing
is not my phone. That is your phone.
All right. It's not my fault. All right, Lando. It's like an entire hour of us basically just talking about nothing. And if you listen to the April Fool's show, you know what it is. I got to my slap happy phase, so I need to just buck up. I need to freshen up and remember that we're back on the Chivecast. We're not going to talk about nail polish anymore. We're going to talk about Weequay, and we're going to talk about the Star Wars Collector's Archive, because one, Tommy S.J.W. Garvey is doing an amazing job, and we want him to talk about it. So what have you been up to, Tommy?
Well, Yehuda and I have started a regular blog feature called the Star Wars Community Digest, where we look at all the different groups and forums around the internet. We review them every week, and then we do an article of our findings, where we're sort of like Soap Opera Digest, but without all the cases of amnesia. You know, we catch you up to date on what's going on. We provide links so that you can join those conversations, and we're trying to partner with all the different groups and forums so we can bridge the gaps between them and make sure that everyone can follow everything in the hobby like they used to be able to do on Usenet and Rebel Scum.
Right. So Tommy is famous in the hobby, or at least he was when it was possible to be famous in the hobby for anything other than owning a bunch of toys, for being somebody who cataloged the hobby. So
the history.
If you're ever thinking like, oh, was there ever a Rebel Scum thread about this? If it exists, Tommy has it. So how's it been going? How has the digest been going?
It's been going really well. We're getting a lot of admins and moderators writing us and saying that they want to participate. And a lot of people have written to Yehuda and I and say how much they appreciate what we're doing, because I mean, there are so many groups and forums now that people just can't stay up to date on it. So if someone else is going to do it for you, I think a lot of people like that. They like to just every week, every Sunday, they can go on there, they can read the summaries of what's going on, and then if they want to join in those conversations, they can. But if they don't feel like joining in, at least they have a basic understanding of what's going on.
Now, I have a question for you.
I kind of think of it as like the Sunday newspaper of the hobby these days.
Yeah, that's what we're going for. That's what we wanted. The banner for it I created is all the Imperials like sitting around reading newspapers and having a meeting.
But here's a question for you, Tommy. What happens if the threads get erased?
Then we cry.
Okay, so you're not actually cataloging them.
We are saving the synopses and the pictures of the thread on the archive.
Right.
But we do not have the capacity to save the entire Facebook thread on the archive. Facebook just is not set up that way.
Yeah.
So we are partnering with those groups, and we are trusting them not to erase that thread, because we can't. There's nothing we can do. Like we could, if we took a screen grab of every page of every thread, I guess we could do that, but no one's ever going to read that.
Right. Okay, so let's go as an example. Okay, let's imagine that somebody, let's imagine that we're doing the Weequay episode, and that there was some collector who 2 years ago came in and got super hot and bought all the Weequays he possibly could, and had like a crazy picture, kind of like the one from last week with Special Lady with the Commandos, with like 20 different Weequay cardbacks with coin offers on them, right? And I just wanted that picture, and I couldn't find it because I didn't remember the name of the guy, and he sold off his whole collection. In theory, I'd be able to go to your digest, and it would be not necessarily the whole conversation, and I couldn't join in anymore because the guy left, but I would at least have a picture, even if it's kind of grainy and far away, of the conversation. Is that right?
Yes. The first post in every thread is saved. So if he posted a picture of his run, like we have pictures of like the inflatable lightsaber display we talked about the coin find in the Power of the Force coin group that may or may not be legit. We have pictures of that. We have a picture of the first post, and then a lot of the groups now have rules about deleting your threads, that if you do it, they will essentially suspend you. And I definitely encourage that, because I'm all about like archiving this information.
Wow.
And
this is awesome, Tommy.
Something like you're describing, you can actually just search for that on the group. Like Facebook has a search feature. It's just people don't ever use it because it's hard. But you can find any post in any group you want, or anything that you've posted, just so long as it's not a reply. Facebook's not good at that. But if it's a main post, if someone posted, "This is my collection of Weequay stuff," all you have to do is type in Weequay in the search bar on Facebook, not even in any group. Like if you don't know what group it's from, just type in Weequay, hit enter. It'll come up with the search results. On the left-hand side of the screen, it'll say search in posts you've made or your friends and groups. If you hit your friends and groups, it'll show you every Weequay post in every group you belong to.
Huh.
So that's an excellent way to find stuff if you don't know even who posted it.
Right.
But
yeah.
For the purposes of the community digest, yes, we would save that picture.
That's awesome. Well, that's really exciting, and I think because a lot of what we've been doing in the last year, Steve, or 2 years really, is just learning to get along and love Facebook. And it's really actually mainly because you don't care about anything because you're such a snob, Steve. But like Yehuda convinced me to be a Facebook guy, and now I'm like super Facebook guy. But always the problem was, how do you save it? And this is destroying the hobby, and old farts like us saying like, you can't save anything and none of it's archived. Well, now we are. And not just we, but like Tommy effing Garvey is doing it. Like the guy who does it is doing it. So stop complaining and start participating in these conversations.
I mean, I was just thinking too. It's like this is so much better than our old monthly news segment on the podcast. Like it's so right on top of it. I mean, it's like impossible to keep up these days, and this is it's such a good point of reference.
We're encouraging people in those groups to, if they see a thread that they think should be archived in that manner or talked about in the community digest, to tag either Yehuda and I and bring it to our attention, because I think we're doing I think there are 16 or 17 different groups who are participating now, and that's a whole lot of threads every day for us to go through. So sometimes we may miss something, but if people tag us and tell us, like, this is really important, you guys should talk about this, that helps us out a lot.
All right. Before we get to the next thing that Tommy is going to talk about, what are your feelings on Weequay, Tommy?
I was never a huge fan of the Jabba henchman figures. I think when I started collecting, they were the cheapest figures you could buy, and I think they still are. I was never a huge fan of them.
Well, we're going to be testing that later, Tommy, when you and I go mono tet-o with the Market Watch.
Oh, joy.
Yes.
The last time I bought a Weequay, I think it was $15 carded, so this should be interesting.
With the lower end items, it might just be like 30. It might not be quite as much.
I think the only Weequay item, I have a engineering pilot for the Micro Machines Weequay mini head. I have a carded Weequay mini head on an engineering pilot card. That's the only Weequay thing I can think of off the top of my head that I own.
Yeah, I think Steve and I have been talking about it for a while, about doing non-vintage stuff on the Chivecast, like things that we find interesting. Like we've been talking about doing a Lego cast for a long time, and I think doing a Micro Machines thing with Tommy would be fun. Especially because I think I can actually hear him right now. So it sounds pretty good. It's not the underwater Tommy. So that's good. Okay, so that
was not my fault. That was your fault. It's
not my fault. Yeah, definitely. Because we're on the same thing, doing the exact same thing that we were doing before, except it works, and you changed something. So that must be our fault.
I had 3 out of 4 bars.
That's not good, fine. Tommy.
That was you.
Okay. So what is the Daily Archive spotlight, Tommy?
The SWA Archive Spotlight. Every day I go through the thousands of items on the Star Wars Collectors Archive and just choose one to spotlight for the community. It can be something incredibly rare, like a wax sculpt of a figure, or it can be something that just is odd and weird, like unlicensed ceramic items, just however I'm feeling that day.
That's awesome. So that's kind of like the Nugget from the archive idea.
We totally ripped you off, yeah. We're stealing your thunder.
But you're not, because we are us.
Yeah.
We changed the name. It's more marketable our way.
The Archive Spotlight?
Yep.
The Daily Archive Spotlight. You think that sounds better than the Nugget from the archive? That's cool. Hey, what's your song, by the way? That's what I thought. But I like it because, I mean, all this stuff is like, I don't know, Steve, is this now Archive 3.0? Because
I think we've crossed that threshold, yeah.
Right, because I mean, really, Steve, it was we tried to push forth the Archive 2.0 3 or 4 years ago, where the blog was created, and the blog totally works, right?
Yeah.
Like the blog is great. We got people writing. It's going. Like, okay, we should just be a little bit happy about that the blog works, and now this happened, and it didn't have to happen with a big upheaval and everything. So the archive is really, this is Star Wars Collectors Archive podcast, and there was a while where it felt like we weren't that connected to the archive, and that the archive wasn't doing much. But now we can't even keep up with the archive. All right, so Steve, we're also going to be talking to Phidias. I don't know if we should try to patch him in now. Should we just do some of the usual features with Tommy without Phidias? Because Tommy is always just roped into group talks and roundtables. But I think one extra person doesn't negate your specialness, does it, Tommy?
Poor Tommy. All right, so we are here with Phidias. I was not able to leave. Well, Bruce was not able to leave a voicemail for him, but that's okay. It can't happen every time, and we're still here with Tommy. Tommy, who's a little bit spurned because he always feels like he has to share the spotlight with somebody else. Do you hate Phidias as well, Tommy? I am just counting down the days until Bruce just takes him for everything he's got. Like, Bruce is going to go in there and just steal everything.
Yes.
Just, he'll finally win.
Mystery. But Phidias,
if I have him.
You said Weequay. Why? What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Well, if you Quuay is pronounced key. So wouldn't that be Weequay then? Because that's the last 4 letters of his name.
Okay, maybe. All right, now this is interesting. I mean, you were on with us when we discovered the whole, Asian security guard thing. But because it's
that too.
Because it's tied in to Moby Dick and the character Queequeg, that's what stops me. Otherwise, I'd be totally on board with you calling him Weequay. Weequay? Oh, that's like that. There's this stupid road in Toronto that's called the Queen's Quay, but they call it the Queen's Quay. And they just laugh at you if you call it the Queen's Quay, because that's how it's spelled. What's your vote, Steve? Is it Weequay or Weequay?
I don't know. I mean, the connection to Queequeg is so strong for me. It's tough. But...
What's your vote, Tommy?
I'm gonna go with common usage. I'm gonna stick with Weequay until I'm proven wrong by episode 9.
Yes. Well, it's said in Rebels, Weequay. It's said a couple times in Rebels. But that being said, Phidias, you are the focus collector, so you get to say it. So you've shared images with your focus. How have you built up your focus of Weequay stuff over the years, Phidias?
Jeez. Well, it wasn't even... I have to be honest, I don't even really like him as a character. It was probably... I know this is probably going to be a terrible interview. It was more because I originally just really liked hard copies. And the first, figure out pre-production piece I was able to get for him was a painted hard copy from Tracy Hamilton. He had a pretty comprehensive figure run for it. I think it's on the archive. I guess he sold it off. Like all the other pieces in that run, he sold them to other people, and he kept the hard copy. And a few years ago, he just when I was still like getting a bunch of hard copies, he contacted me one day and just offered it to me, and I ended up with the hard copy first, and then somehow down the road, all the other pieces that went to other people, I was just kind of like at the right place at the right time for some of those pieces. I guess they all ended up back with me, like the proto mold and the head pull piece, and then I was able to add a few extra pieces to it myself, like a photo sample figure, and but yeah, that's how I ended up with the run. I was just putting it together mostly because I liked just because of the hard copy that I got first. That was kind of like the keystone piece that kind of started everything.
So do you like it now?
Yeah, you know what? I would have to say that about a lot of the characters. I think more a lot of the runs that I have for some figures, they probably became my favorite character as an adult, as I put together the runs. I didn't really have a favorite figure as a kid. Actually, it was more of I guess you could say I grew to like some of these characters, like Weequay and some other ones.
Right. Well, we're going to be talking to you in a couple months for Bib Fortuna. Because you're the bib guy. I didn't even know you had a Weequay run going. I like calling him Weequay now. I gotta admit, Steve, calling him Weequay's kind of fun. I was like, Weequay. So
this is where it starts.
Let them folks change our vocabulary. Change our vocabulary.
First Chrome hard copy, Sapporo, Frosted, MIB, MOJ, CMYKUC.
It's vintage. All right, so Steve, I am interested to know what our esteemed guest, Tommy, our number one guest, Phidias, you are like not even like in the top 5 guests this month, okay? Just because Tommy has to feel special. He's number 1, 2, 3,
it's all
and 4.
about me. Yeah, the reason why I read so many threads is because I'm just skimming for my name. Like
Yes.
if I'm looking for my name, and if I see my name, I stop and I read it. And if I don't, well, keep going.
So, Tommy, what you being somebody who loves spreading information and knowledge, what do you think we should highlight in Phidias's amazing Wiki collection?
The Blue Harvest piece.
So I don't remember what is Blue Harvest. So what is a Blue Harvest prototype piece? First of all, Tommy, describe what it looks like. No, Phidias, describe what it looks like, and then Tommy, describe what it is.
Yeah, well, obviously it's blue, but it was from Tommy can confirm it or not, but it's the from the early 90s, where some apparently some rogue Kenner employees had some silicone molds for some of the figures, and they decided to just cast some figures, and they were mostly Jedi characters, possibly, but they cast a bunch of them, legs, arms, torsos, not a lot of complete figures though, just like parts, and then they got sold at some shows, and then eventually, what was the main tell that Kenner didn't use blue urethane in the 70s and 80s. It was either Carbolon or Dynacast. So that was kind of like the telltale, red flag. Okay, so then these sculptors had the silicone molds. Okay, so they had the molds, and so like this example here, this is a Weequay, and it looks like a hard copy. It's a fairly detailed, just the torso and the head and his long, luxurious hair, but it's in blue, and that was just because they used the wrong material. Okay, so then does that mean the silicone molds exist and are out there?
Yeah. Yep, but they did it one time. They might have gotten destroyed when the morgue got cleared out. Like a lot of that stuff was supposed to get thrown into the shredder.
Okay, so then these guys just did this just once? Like they just made fake hard copies just once in the 90s? Is that right, Tommy?
Yeah, I think it was for a couple years they were doing it just on their own hours, just using the modern blue material, but Kenner didn't start using that material until I think 89. So yeah, then once collectors caught on, it sort of the market for them dried up. But if you look in the old Tomart guides and stuff like that, you can see that for a while people thought that they were legit. And I used to see them at toy shows back in the early 90s where people would have a micro collection 4-up shot in blue, and they'd have them in their case. And they got out there. I think they made a bunch of them. I don't know if they had like some sort of assembly line at night going, just like every Thursday you and I'll come in here and we'll pour some hard copies to make some extra cash, but they spread out.
And do we know the names of the people who actually did it?
It is known, but I don't know it offhand because collectors don't talk about it. It's just something you can get them to say in casual conversation, but I don't think there's any thread or officially it's unknown.
I mean, is it like some of the heroes that we look up to who actually made these things were also trying to rip us off? Which, by the way, I would think is hilarious. I wouldn't even be upset. I would just think it's funny. I know I'm supposed to be uptight about that stuff, but I guess that's a possibility. Hey,
probably. I think it would have to be someone who was still there in the early 90s, though.
Right.
And it should be pointed out that since they are products of the original silicon mold, just like an actual hard copy would be, that they're still collectible. I mean, they still have value. For a while, they were seen as fakes and no one wanted them, but then people started to realize, this is still a copy of the original sculpt. It was just made 10 years later, but it's still cool. I mean, it's still a hard copy. It just wasn't used in production, and it was made to defraud collectors, but it's literally a hard copy of the original sculpt. So, especially in cases where there are no hard copies of certain figures or micro collection figures, Blue Harvest stuff is the only option if you want something from that stage. So collectors over the past 10 years or so have really started to give those a lot more value than they once had.
So what do you think cost more? What do you think would cost more, like an authentic hard copy in 2000 or a Blue Harvest hard copy now?
Blue Harvest now, I should say.
Yeah. Because what were authentic hard copies going for in 2000, Phidias?
In 2000, let me see. They were probably still. I remember the first hard copy I got was because I started pretty late in the game. The first hard copy I got was in 2006, and I paid like $2,000 for it in 2006. So if it's 2000, maybe like 1,000 or less.
Yeah, I think Nyheisel was selling the ATST driver for, I want to say 12, and I think Wicket was 9, and I think Anakin was like 1,800 or something. It was just, at the time, you could buy the hard copy of Anakin cheaper than you could buy a carded Power of the Force Anakin. Like, it was ridiculous.
There's
that's why we have Tommy on here. That's good information. Okay, sorry, what was that, Phidias?
Oh yeah, there's a old post on Rebel Scum I like pulling up once in a while. It's in the classifieds by by Chamberlain, and he's selling a hard copy Rebel Commander, and I think he was asking $700. And this is like early 2000s, so that was like a typical asking price.
In 1990, I want to say 6, maybe, I turned down a bib hard copy for $350.
Wow. Well, and Phidias probably has that. You have to tune in 3 months. So then what would a Blue Harvest Weequay, what would this go for if Phidias decided to sell it? And not what will you sell it for, but what would its fair market value be?
$1,500.
Okay, that's
just a guess.
Yeah, good to know. What really interests me in your collection, Phidias, obviously is the stuff you haven't mentioned, the proofs and the chromolins. What Steve wanted to be the vintage vocab, I think Blue Harvest is good for vintage vocab because his vintage vocab was Skiff Guard, which I don't think really needs to be explained, but it is part of the Weequay history. Tommy, what does it mean when you say Skiff Guard?
Skiff Guard is the name found on some early proofs of Weequay.
Why?
Maybe Kenner originally intended him to be like an army builder figure, right?
Yeah.
Like Gamorrean Guard. He was just going to be a generic figure that you could have bought multiples of, instead of being like an individual unique character.
Figure, weren't they? Weren't they going to do like a Weequay and a Skiff Guard?
Looking at your collection, Phidias, you have a couple Skiff Guard items. So you have the Revenge black and white mock-up, and we've talked about those in the past. I forget which episode, but that doesn't really matter. But then you have this proof card that has Weequay written in red pen next to Skiff Guard. What's the story with that?
Oh yeah, that's actually a piece I just got pretty relatively recently, maybe last year. Yeah, it was just another collector that just knew I had stuff for him, and he had a proof that that was the main reason I got it. It has the name written next to the nameplate, and that
was just someone at Kenner wrote that, or what? Yeah,
it was. I get maybe it's kind of I guess you can kind of call it a transition piece. Maybe they were, from being a Skiff Guard to changing it to Weequay, and that's it. Yeah, just a red marker.
And are there
was.
any Weequay proofs of the original? Like
That's an excellent question. I don't think I've seen one that actually has his name on it as a proof card.
$1 Vlix. Market Watch. We're gonna have a wiki Market Watch where it's gonna be Tommy, who's the greatest archivist in the history of the hobby, Phidias, who has the greatest focus collection of wiki, and me, the all-time world champion, never defeated king of the Market Watch game. So we're going to see how it goes. You guys know how this works. I hope you do. You have to have a pencil out and a piece of paper, and you have to write down the prices you think. Okay, yes. What is the first one, Steve?
All right. So up first, this is from Brisbane. He's coming through again. So first up, we have a carded 65A, graded AFA 85.
Okay, so this is the debut of Weequay. Was on a 65A back, which has, of course, the blacked out Ewoks on the back, and it's an AFA 85. Now, AFA 85 is what people who collect grades, that is their minimum. That is the thing. If you collect grades, that's what you'd like. Is the bubble yellowed?
It looks like it's slightly starting to yellow. Yeah,
but it's not a Y grade.
As far as I can see, I don't think it graded that way, no.
Okay. I will say that it does not seem that Weekeys tend to yellow, which is funny because there's
some nice ones on here.
Is Weequay the only figure that has the letter Y in it?
Reese. No, I guess it's not.
All right, Steve, Skye, is this your ploy to stave off? You got to give your answer here.
Oh, I got to give my answer. Oh, I always have to go
gray.
first. That's why I lose. Okay, low gray. Okay, Obi-Wan Kenobi. All right. I am going to say, in honor of the Los Angeles Olympics, because Phidias is from Los Angeles, I'm going to say $198.04.
Okay.
No, 40 cents. 40 cents.
Okay.
All right. Did you say 198?
Yeah, but you can't go based on what I said.
No, I missed that part.
God, you cheat.
I'm totally cheating.
You cheat, Katie.
All right, Phidias, what do you got? What's your guess?
AFA 85. I wrote $400.
400. Okay. And Tommy?
$250.
250. 300. So Tommy.
There you go.
Tommy wins it.
Gets point number 1.
Wow. Okay, so Steve, we should then say that.
It's a good feeling to be the best there ever was.
I mean, yeah, it is true. It's the first round I've ever lost, much less the whole game. Okay, Steve, we should make a new rule where the person who wins the last one has to go first on the next one.
Oh, good.
All right.
Right? Because if it's always me going first, then everyone else just always cheats, and that's why I always win, but somehow don't manage to win. Okay.
All right. So Tommy's going to go first on this one then, okay?
Yes.
All right. So up next, we have a 77A that's also graded an AFA 85. And this one, the bubble looks a lot clearer compared to that last one.
Oh, you are bedeviling me, Steve. That is a bedeviling. That's just you bedeviling. That's all I can say.
$215.
All right, so Tommy's got $215. All right, Skye.
Oh my God, I hadn't written it out yet, but I was going to write down 250. So
250?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Phidias, what do you think?
I wrote $275.
$499.
What?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Oh man. So Phidias gets that one.
Well, now we've all won one. Okay. $500 for a Weequay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's correct. Speechless. All right. You ready for the next one?
Yes.
Okay. So the next we have a 77B. So this has the Anakin sticker offer, but it also has a coin offer, and it is not graded. Condition-wise, let's see here. It's not bad, but like another bubble, it's fairly clear compared to most Jedi figures. It's got some price stickers on there. Otherwise, it looks pretty good.
Is it punched?
It is punched.
Okay, 1 second. I haven't written it down yet.
All right, so Phidias is gonna have to go first, right, by your new rule?
Yeah, although I mean it shouldn't matter except that everyone cheats but me. Okay, I've officially written it down.
All right. We'll just go back to the old format. All right, Skye, what do you got?
No, because Phidias is going to cheat.
No, I already got.
Fine.
I wrote mine down already. I got it.
Okay.
All
Phidias, what'd you write?
What do you have, Phidias?
Did Tommy write his down?
Yes.
Wrote it? Okay. All right. $110.
110. Okay.
I see 175. Oh, go ahead.
Tommy says 175. Okay. And Skye?
I wrote 108.33.
Bingo, Skye. $42. All the way down.
$42.
From $499 to $42.
Wow.
Yeah.
For a double offer too.
Yeah, double offer. Looks pretty nice. I mean, this is the madness that is the grades, I guess, right? So, good lord. Okay.
Yeah, because
so we have a three-way tie here.
We do. Wow, I've never not been leading by 5 points going into the last round. This is crazy. How many more rounds do we have?
A couple more rounds. More rounds. We got 3 more items here. All right. So up next we have. Let's see. Okay. So the next one we have a carded 65B, but this has the Japanese Sakuda sticker on the back. This one is not graded. So let me look at the condition and kind of give you an idea. It looks like it's in pretty good shape. Let's see here. Where did it go? There it is. Sorry, guys, 1 second. Okay, so this one, it is unpunched. It's got a yellowing bubble, but not awful. And it has a price sticker on the front, and then, it has the Sakuda Japanese sticker on the back.
Okay, I'll have to go first again this time.
Yeah, you have to go first.
Because I demolished you. Destroyed you guys. It was humiliation. All right. Okay. I said 144.42.
144.42. Okay. Phidias, what about you?
The 210.
210. Okay. And Tommy?
300.
300. Oh, Skye, your ego is just going to get inflated here. 62. So another bargain compared to what you guys were putting down.
A Sakuda sticker, I mean, those aren't that easy to find. I mean...
No, yeah. No? So, yeah, $62.
They're beautiful. Wow. And I guessed 144. Wow.
You guessed
I was going insurance value is the thing. That's why I was so far.
Okay.
You see, and I said 144 because 44 is the number of the greatest Los Angeles Laker of all time. So there you go. And who would that be, Phidias?
Left-handed Laker, number 44, Jerry West.
There you go. That's right. West Virginia. West Virginia, of course, which is why he's... my dad has the little McFarlane Jerry West toy on top of his mantle, and it always annoys me because he's a Laker, but he's a Mountaineer first. Okay.
All right.
Now that I have a dominating lead that is insurmountable, what's next?
Right, it's completely insurmountable. Okay, so up next we have this is the bagged figure. It's the ESB D style. So what that means, it's heat sealed with a crisp plastic.
ESB.
And that's about all you really need to know.
You said wait, you said ESB though?
Yeah, see, this is one of those weird things where like the baggy designations that Bill Wills had come up with. Some of those, even though it might be for a different figure from a different line, the style of baggie, I guess, can kind of cross lines. So this one is apparently an ESBD style. So all that means is that it's got Kenner in kind of like a plain text, and I'm trying to see what the country is. This picture's a little small. Anyway, it's a bagged Weequay or Weequay. I don't know how many different variations there are for him specifically, but that's what this one is.
And heat sealed. Heat sealed.
Yes, heat sealed.
Top and the bottom.
Crisp plastic.
It's crispy. Yeah. It's not. It's not cloudy. Okay.
No.
Oh boy, he sounds like he knows what he's doing, Tommy.
He's got the recipe for.
This is his field, man. This is Weequay's his
all right, Skye, you gotta go again.
Okay, well then I am going to go with 300, and then the number of the second best Laker of all time, which of course is 13, and then the third best Laker of all time, 22 cents.
313 and 22 cents.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Why don't we go with Tommy? What do you got, Tommy?
I don't know. 75?
Okay. And Phidias?
120.
120. This one goes to Tommy. $32. A steal.
What?
What is up with Weequay, man?
He's all over the place. All over the place.
There's been
I think
three legitimately.
Like the POF 2 Weequay is the only figure that is worth like a ton of money. The freeze frame POF 2 Weequay is at the height of POF 2.
Yes, that is the only truly valuable POF 2 thing.
Yes.
I actually thought about getting one of those once because it seems
his revenge.
Like, yeah.
All right. So we have Phidias, let's see, can come back and tie it here. We have a three-way tie with a sudden death extra item, or it could be Skye or Tommy, depending on who gets closest here. You ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
The next, possibly last item we have is a loose Polish third-generation bootleg.
Oh, man.
He's got, it's really hard to just, really give you much on this, other than he's got a bright red shirt, some white pants, some blue gloves, and brown boots.
Wow. I don't know. I have no idea what the Polish bootleg market is.
Yeah, it's a tough one to pin down. So,
all right, well, Tommy, you go first.
$100.
100, okay. Skye, what you got?
Jamal Wilkes.
Oh, see, what was his number again? I can't remember.
52.
52, okay.
Yep.
And Phidias.
Bob McAdoo.
Oh, what was McAdoo's number?
Look it up, Steve.
We don't have time.
I thought you were a fan, Steve.
Hi, this is Chris G. If you're like me, then you think the Market Watch goes on too long.
Clutch, Tommy. That was good. God, what is McAdoo's number? I can't remember.
He is not telling you.
No, see, I'm like, we're all like, I'm so scared of the call getting dropped. Here we go, Bob McAdoo. 11? What?
11?
Yeah, I'm not good with I'm just guessing really low because I don't know what the market is for bootleg.
All right, well, Skye takes it 52, and it was 60.
Oh.
Wait a minute. Did I win?
You won, legitimately.
I've never won a game of the Market Watch. This is amazing. I mean, I've never lost, but I've also never won. Wow. This is, we've gone through a lot, Steve. We've been recording this episode for well over 3 hours, and I think we got 22 minutes of usable footage. But it's all worth it for this moment.
It all pays off, yeah.
It does.
Wow. There you have it.
There you have it. That is great.
So, yeah, I mean, this is one of those figures where there was some wacky stuff, and then some really low, or not really low, but like reasonable stuff. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So there you have
wonderful. Awesome. Well, Steve, you and I will record the rest of the episode next week, but we need to say goodbye to one Phidias J. Barrios and one Tommy CIA Garvey.
That's That's Steve.
All right.
Hey, Tommy.
Bye.
Night.
Tonight I'm all alone in my room. I'll go insane if you won't sleep with me. I'll still be with you. I'm gonna meet you on the ice cream plane. The ice cream plane before dark at night. The ice cream plane, or I'll go insane. Well, I don't see you and it's getting dark. Today we should have gone to a Central Park. Well, don't you want to see me ever again? If not, I'll meet you on the astral plane.
So, in the last couple of weeks, Steve, there's been some new news in the vintage world. So, why don't you? You're kind of driving this part of the show. So tell us about it, Steve.
Well, so there was two things I thought were pretty cool. The first, I don't know if you saw this. It was probably a week or so ago, a week or two. There was a really early fan film that surfaced. It's called The Imperial Strike Back. It was made by 10-year-olds in over the course of 2 years, 77 and 78, and it is awesome. It's 21 minutes long, and it's fully produced and everything, and they actually have a lot of the vintage toys in there.
Yeah, I watched it, Steve, and I think it's bogus.
I think it's bogus.
Yeah, I don't buy it. It's too clean.
It's too clean.
It's too good. It's too much exactly what you want, and the vintage toys are in there. I think we're dealing with alien autopsy levels of subterfuge here.
Conspiracy. Yeah.
Which, by the way, I did rent Alien Autopsy back in the day at Blockbuster, and
of course you did.
I was actually well, wait, what? I mean, what if it is real? I mean, this is what an alien autopsy would look like. So I'm not basing that on anything else other than just, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It seems too good to me.
All right. Well, I don't know. I guess check it out for yourself. I think I'd seen this through Tom Burge's site. I grew up Star Wars, but
yes, the site which, Steve, that's one of the most popular Star Wars websites in the world. And I believe his first interview was on the Chivecast, episode number 2.
Yeah, no, it was within the first few for sure.
Yeah. I don't know, because Steve and I were talking about this earlier. We just don't listen to our early episodes.
No.
Remember when it was a big deal that we talked to anybody else?
We weren't just sitting at your dining room table, sharing one microphone.
Yeah, it was a big deal. So anyway, I don't mean to rain on the parade, but this to me, I think it's bogus. But that'll be my take. But the next story, okay, Steve, is not bogus. Tell us about that.
No. Okay, so the next one, it's a great blog post on the SWCA blog by Kevin Lentz, who he's from the Kentucky area. He's a big part of the Kentucky Star Wars Collectors Club. And he had a post on there just, I think, within the last few days that was sharing this kind of period news article from, what was the newspaper? It was the... one second.
What is it?
Here we go. The Louisville Courier Journal. So it's from May 25th, 1978. So that's a year after the movie's been out. And what's really awesome about this, and he highlights it in the blog post, but you get a lot of perspective from store clerks and store managers from Louisville. You don't see that very much. People, getting quoted about how things are going at their particular store and how crazy the kids are for Star Wars. I don't know. I just thought seeing that really kind of local detail was fun, and it was something that was definitely worth highlighting.
Now, this is something which, for our purposes, this is actually more interesting than that video, even if that video is real.
Yeah.
Right. Even if that Stranger Things Super 8 knockoff video is real. Because, I mean, this really goes into detail about, like, what it was like on the ground floor. I mean, there's interviews with Kenner spokesman, and refusing to say how much things cost. And, I mean, Kevin's great. Have we had him on the show, Steve?
Oh, we haven't had him in like an official interview. There's a chance that he was in one of those celebration episodes, but we really need to have him on just for a proper.
Yeah, he's in the list of people the long list of people that we should talk to.
Yeah.
I don't know, Steve. Do you have any part from this article that you find particularly interesting?
Oh, there's this one bit about saying how quickly some of these stores were selling out of their figures. So there's this one, Thornbury Toys on Shelbyville Road. They got in 144 figures on a Wednesday, and by Saturday they only had 8 left.
Wow.
And then this Kmart on the Dixie Highway, they sold out of their 288 figures in 2 days. So that, I don't know, it seems pretty crazy. Like when you think, I think the figures had only been out for just on the shelves for a couple months at that point. And I think there was a JCPenney in here I think they went through 4,000 figures in a matter of like 2 months, something like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, this is from May 25th, 1978. So, this is the 1 year anniversary. And there's all these cool pictures actually of the toys in the article. And it's,
right.
This might be the first, real market watch,
Yeah, right.
Because, I mean, so much of it is all about all the different kinds of things you can get. They have a choice of jewelry, necklaces, rings, pins, or bracelets. Feature Star Wars characters. They can check the day of the week with calendars. While at school, they can swap Star Wars bubblegum cards. When they get home, they can take a snack from R2-D2 cookie jar before taking out their aggression on R2-D2 or Darth Vader punching bag. Darth Vadar. Then comes playtime and the real choice. 12 figures of Star Wars characters ranging in size from 2¼ to 4¼ inches. X-Wing and TIE fighters. They can paint posters with a dip dot. Anyway, it's just on and on.
Yeah, it's like your Gamorrean Guard Day in the Life, but the actual, like every moment is covered here. It's crazy. Yeah, especially when you realize like how much early product there really was. And that's like one of the best succinct descriptions of how kind of nuts it was.
Right. It says here at the very end, the Kenner spokesman sees, quote, absolutely no waning, end quote, in the popularity of Star Wars theme. And with at least one sequel to the movie being planned, Kenner is already working on Star Wars toys for 1979.
Yeah. It's, man. I love the mention of the average prices too. So they're $197 to $299, and then one man said he had seen the figures at the airport priced at $5. So it's like the airport pricing.
It was still a problem all the way back then.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and it's cool because there's no interviews with kids or parents. It's all just like store owners. Yeah. Anyways, This is really worth seeing. There's so many great articles on the Star Wars Collectors Archive blog, but this is just a treat, especially because it's a rare mixture of nostalgia fix and information. Because you truly learn about the way the toys were sold and what it was like on the ground, more than just your memory, and then it's also just a good connection. Wow. Yeah, I guess the guys from My Morning Jacket were probably buying these Star Wars toys at these stores. You know that band, Steve?
I've heard of them.
Yeah. You know my whole story with them?
There's a faint memory. I don't know if I know the whole story.
I might have been married to somebody who was legitimately in love with the lead singer. It was actually like a problem. It was like a legitimate problem in my marriage. But I'm supposed to only talk about Star Wars, so I'll only talk about Star Wars here. To be fair, he is a very charismatic and great singer. So if I were to be in love with any singer, it'd be Morrissey.
'Tis a nugget from the archive. 'Tis a nugget.
Oh my God, they're gorgeous.
From the archive.
Oh my God, they're gorgeous.
Oh, I love hearing. Well, that abrupt addition of the Nugget from the Archive sound indicates to you it is time for the Nugget from the Archive. And just in time, Steve, because I just drug up the etymology of the word skiff, and it's not very interesting. It means little boat. But right. What is the Nugget from the Archive, Steve? Because you've been getting pretty interesting stuff lately, and this is both a nugget and an unloved item.
It is, yeah. It's a hybrid.
Because I don't know what it is. So what is this, Steve?
All right. So what we're talking about is the original artwork for one of the panels for a Return of the Jedi bookcase, and this particular panel is the background of like the top shelf. And what it is, it's an image of Tatooine with the Skiff and Weequay kind of prominently in the foreground. You see Jabba's sail barge in the background, and it's just it's a artist rendering of a kind of common image, like that. You can see that's that same Weequay image that you see on the cardback. You see it in publicity photos, but it's a little tweaked here in a really interesting way, I think.
Yeah, because it's also the standard. It's actually the image of Luke.
Yeah, the Luke as well.
But the Luke is from the sail barge.
Yeah.
So that's the image,
gangplank's missing.
Right. It's the image of Luke on the sail barge with the green lightsaber, and you see Lando Skiff in the background. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it looks like they're sort of traveling together because
it's just the three of them.
They're not really fighting. I mean, Luke doesn't look like he's about to stab the Weequay in the back.
No, it looks like they're going on a raid of their own.
Right. Yeah, and it's just completely unique artwork for the back of a bookcase.
Right.
Now, I'd never even seen this bookcase before.
Really? Oh man. Yeah, this thing's awesome. I've never actually seen one in person, but I always tell myself if I like stumbled across one at a garage sale, I would just have to buy it because it's really, really great. I mean, it's from a company called American Toy and Furniture, and they're responsible for the good old R2-D2 toy toter. So It's like, yeah, they have a whole line of funky kids furniture type stuff. If you go on the archive and just look up that license, American Toy and Furniture, you'll see there aren't images for everything, but there's a pretty fun list of things on there.
Okay, now let's spend some time here, Steve. Because I've actually now just done this, okay? So a while ago, we talked about the R2-D2 toy toter, and I don't think we need to spend any more time on that. You should go back to that episode. That was...
It was an early unloved item, right?
Yes, it was a very early unloved one. It seems to me that this company, American Toy and Furniture, we might want to try to figure out, maybe get Duncan on or something, and just break down everything, because it seems as though they do mostly original art.
Yeah,
Because if you look at the artwork there's a nightstand, and on that nightstand there's a Jabba's palace scene with completely unique artwork of Leia Bouche with Chewbacca actually in chains. There's very few items with Chewbacca in chains, so that's unique artwork from them. There's a desk like to sit at and work, and that has a different Sarlacc image. You know, it's not just cut and paste. It's another skiff and another barge.
Totally different, yeah.
And then my personal favorite, which I just discovered right now, is the Darth Vader coat rack.
Yes. Man, see, I had already pinned that as a future unloved item.
Okay, then we'll just save that. You should look at this thing. This is probably the coolest thing This is probably the coolest thing I've seen all year. Like, I really didn't know this existed. This is totally wild. So look this up, spend some time, maybe make yourself an expert on American toy and furniture. And I suppose the stuff must have been made in America as well.
Yeah, I'm assuming so. This particular piece of art, and also the original art for that desk Skiff image, they're from the collection of the Bickmore brothers. And I asked them, I was trying to see if they might have it handy to get a better, closer image of it, because you can tell it's a beautiful piece of art, but the image is, I think you can tell it's been on the archive for a while. It could use a bigger picture, but they told me how they got it, which was kind of funny.
Right, and we've had the Bickmores on the show before.
But
I'm going to be honest, Steve. I've never understood who they are. Like, for as long as I've been collecting, this is what, 12th year or something like that, I've known that they are really smart people, and I know that they know a lot and that they know everybody, but I've never been quite clear, like, what do they collect and what do they do? And it's only been recently that I'm actually starting to get an idea of it, because they've been posting more on Facebook. I don't know if you're a part of Echo Base, but that's a pretty good Facebook page. And Mac just showed off his R2-D2 collection, which is just stupid. It is such an awesome collection.
Oh, man.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, man.
I'll check it out.
It is outstanding. And so, if you look at pictures from Celebration 1, they're there. Like, they've always been there, but somehow I don't know if they're like, maybe they're more famous with like older collectors, whatever it is, but I think they need to be more famous, because they might secretly be some of the absolute smartest, most knowledgeable people in the hobby. So I mean, I know we've had Alex on because he's famous for having the volume dial broken. I'm one to talk. But anyway, so we're going back to the artwork here, because this is original, looks like hand painted artwork from this scene. So how did they get it, Steve?
So Alex told me that they were at a rummage sale in Evanston, Illinois. So they're from the Chicago area, and this is back in 1997. And he was searching around, and there wasn't anything in the toy section, but he said that he went up to the gym where the odds and ends and clothes and that kind of stuff was being sold, and he found a guy just holding a giant Death Star painting. And I'm assuming it might be the Death Star image that's from the bookshelf. I'm not sure. Regardless, he immediately went to go see what was going on with this guy, and he had stacks of art on tables. And he said he didn't even say anything. He just started going through and pulling out all the Star Wars stuff.
Right, and this is why we need to have Alex on the show, because he has a very distinctive voice. So when I read this, I'm not going to do a regular impersonation. Be like, I just dove in and started pulling Star Wars, Care Bears, Cabbage Patch Kids, Disney art, all the furniture company. Like, that's the level of which... Yeah. I'm becoming a bigger fan of the Bickmores the more I talk about them, Steve. I can't wait for Celebration.
I think that was a pretty good. That was the first crack at that. It's pretty good.
Was that pretty good?
Yeah.
Right.
So he says that he suspects the Death Star is still somewhere in the Evanston area, but they also apparently got.
Oh wait, so they didn't get the Death Star painting?
No. So they got, at least on the archive, they have this Skiff one and then the Skiff one from the desk. And I mean, who knows what else was in there? Because there's like a whole Ewok line from American Toy and Furniture. I'm sure Jared knows a lot about that.
Right.
Yeah. So they got this from that kind of rummage sale find that was basically the cache of a bunch of artwork from American Toy and Furniture. And Max sent me a picture that he also got this Care Bears animation cell. And apparently it was a gift to the furniture company from the animation company. And it's just funny because he ends his message with, you can save that for your Kivecast Care Bear special in 2082. So.
Well, that might be our next April Fool's episode, which we'll talk about at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is great stuff, Steve. I mean, this is the perfect Unloved Nugget. And it is definitely a Weequay piece. I'd say he's the star of it.
Yeah,
because it's on the Skiff. And
I just noticed too. I realized like the Tatooine landscape there. It looks very, very Episode 1 to me. I don't know. Did you get that when you look at this?
Yeah.
Usually with Tatooine on the old vintage stuff, it doesn't quite look like that in most cases. At least not that I can remember. But it's got that.
It won't translate too well to the podcast.
No,
but you're right. It has. Well, actually, what it really looks like is that there's a large space of sand, and then there's canyons in the distance.
Right.
And the canyons sort of look like they're that part of the pod race.
Right.
Which, now the people who hate Last Jedi are now coming around to liking the prequels, which is messed. It's like everyone like saying they love George W. Bush now. Anyways, except that the prequels are awesome. Always have been. Okay, so yeah, this is great. You should check it out. You should spend more time because this is the thing, Steve. Even though, when did we start the sort of Archive 2.0 initiative? Was that like?
It's 4 years ago almost now.
Was it really? The blog's been up for 4 years?
Yeah, 4 years in August.
Wow. So even though for 4 years we've been pushing hard to show more stuff on the archive, the folks over at the Vintage Rebellion are now doing these, bits from the archive. Tommy's putting up stuff from the archive on Facebook. There's still stuff to be discovered just from poking around, just looking for one thing and looking for another.
Right.
Yeah, and this bookshelf is absolutely it. Wow. Awesome, Steve. Well, Susan, with every good thing there has to be a bad thing. How about the unloved item of the month?
You don't hate, only the unloved hate. The unloved and the unnatural. The unloved and the unnatural.
All right, so Steve. Okay, Steve. So, did you know what I was saying? Who I was imitating there, Steve?
It was definitely ringing a bell, but you're gonna have to spell it out for me.
Oh my God, that was the best impersonation I've ever heard. I'm always excited when I'm listening to baseball of the New York Yankees.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, we'll also get into baseball later.
Yeah,
just the Yankees play-by-play people.
Yes. Okay. Now I needed the other one to.
Yes.
All right.
They are secretly my favorite broadcasters in America, even though I hate the Yankees. I gotta give it up to them. They have personality.
Yeah, that's true.
So, all right, let's talk about something unloved. Now, I don't know if this is unloved, Steve.
Yeah, see, I thought that by going with the bookshelf, I could kind of get a pass on sneaking this in there. But you're right. They're not. I wouldn't say they're unloved in the traditional sense.
Okay, what are they, Steve?
So we're talking about the Weequay Dawn Post mask from '83. So yeah, Dawn Post masks. I wouldn't say those are generally an unloved item, but I don't think we'd ever really talked about them before that I can remember.
No, I don't think so.
And with this one, I feel like I remembered there was a Weequay mask a long time ago, but it was a surprise to me to find it while prepping the show. I'd totally forgotten about it. But yeah, I just thought that since we hadn't talked about Dawn Post before, this might be a good chance.
Okay, so what do we want to say about Dawn Post, Steve? I'm really making you do a lot of work this month.
Yeah, it's fine by me. Well, so for the Weequay in particular, I guess we should start a little further back, right? So Dawn Post, they were famous for making monster masks going back to, I think they were founded in 1938. But through the 60s and 70s, they were making monster masks. I know our friend Mark Enright probably knows a lot about Dawn Post. Yeah, so they had the Star Wars license from the early going, and the one I always remember is the Darth Vader helmet, of course. But they made stuff for the other movies too, and I feel like the Jedi masks are really like your wheelhouse Dawn Post type characters because they're more like monsters, right?
Right.
And so Weequay, he's pretty freaky looking. I don't know, this thing it just makes you realize how kind of terrifying Weequay is as a guy.
Yeah.
And I found this ad that was from Starlog that was kind of debuting the first wave of the Jedi characters. Let me just pull that up really quick. Where was that? Okay, here we go. So yeah, this is an ad from Starlog, and it has the 5 new masks that were coming out for Return of the Jedi. So it was Weequay, and then you had Akbar, Gamorrean Guard, Wicket, and a very bald Klaatu.
Yes.
And what's crazy, I guess maybe it's not crazy, but I was looking at like the retail prices for these, and the Weequay was actually the most expensive of this lot. He was retailing at $54.95.
Wow.
Which, yeah, I mean, it's pretty serious.
And that was $10 more than the Akbar, which was $45. And the cheapest mask you could get was $40. So yeah, I mean this is at least what equivalent of $100, if not more. Yeah, and I mean I guess that's part of what makes Don Post masks so interesting is when you can. Do you know why I get confused, Steve? What always would confuse me would be Don Post and Ben Cooper.
Yeah,
because they just happen to sound similar as far as names go. Like boring names. Like if it was Ben Post and Don Cooper, you wouldn't be like, oh, that's so different.
Right.
But they're really. It's almost like the difference between like Hasbro and Gentle Giant or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was a totally different market and a totally different level of quality. So, Don Post was founded in 1938. And one of the things they were really into the Universal Monster masks.
Right.
So if you ever see those masks, it comes from that. So I think they're kind of wrapped up in that sort of famous monsters of Filmland and Elvira sort of nerd genre subculture.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
And so it's cool to imagine them. They must have been so excited when Return of the Jedi came out. And it's like, Klaatu, yes. Akbar, absolutely. Because you think about it, I mean, Vader's pretty boring, and the Stormtroopers are pretty boring. They're not at
3PO,
all...
yeah.
They're not at all what they like.
Right.
Why do you think the Weequay was so much more expensive?
I'm thinking the only thing I can come up with is the hair braids. Because there's like 3 or 4. There's a handful of hair braids coming out the back of his head. And I guess maybe that. I don't really know. Yeah,
it must make it harder to produce.
Manufacture. Yeah. But
and if you ever want to kind of scare yourself, look up images of the Weequay Don Post mask on eBay. I mean, it looks like you can't get them for less than $200.
No, I think this one is one of the tougher ones to come by.
Yeah, and it's, I suppose that Don Post collectors, I discovered there have been Don Post conventions.
Mm-hmm.
So
like Don Con?
Yes. So I imagine there must be people who just track this down. There must be a lot of like cross collecting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, Steve. This holds up now. I think if you wore this mask now, I don't think you could make a better Weequay mask.
No.
And maybe that's the difference. Is Ben Cooper stuff you can do better. No offense to anybody who collects Ben Cooper, but you could do better. But I don't think you can do better. So
yeah, no, I think that was the quintessential Weequay.
Yeah, and it looks like a shrunken head too.
Yeah, he does have that vibe, definitely. Yeah,
I think that's something that I've never really thought about until I saw all these crazy masks.
Yeah. And it's interesting too that like the packaging, it was pretty much uniform for everything, and they would just slap a different color or different sticker star with whatever the character's name was on it. So I think that blue Star Wars Don Post kind of generic box, it can be found, I think, throughout the line.
Huh. Yeah, it's not a nice box, I don't think. That's always like, I don't own a Don Post Chewbacca mask.
Oh, see, I was wondering. Yeah,
I've never liked that design. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I have a pretty good collection of costumes, so I should probably track one of those down now.
You probably
I should probably track one of those down now.
You probably should, yeah.
And we'll keep coming back to Don Post, I think, because this between Don Post and American Desk and Toy, American Furniture and Toy, American Toy and Furniture.
Yeah.
I think that we're finding some great new stuff here as we get to the end of the lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, man, I love Weequay. All right, Steve. What do we have next year for our crazy pickup episode?
I think it's just feedback.
All right. Well, let's figure out what kind of weird bullcrap song I put on before feedback, because I've never managed to get a song that I like for feedback. All right, we're back, Steve, from feedback. First of all, we need to figure out how to centralize our feedback even more.
Yeah.
Fans of the show will know we used to have the Wampa line.
The Wampa line.
1877 Pocket Wampa. God, Steve, I had all these grand dreams of what the show was going to be like before I realized how niche it was. I thought we were going to have like Wampa lines filled with people waiting to get on the show all the time. So that didn't work, and I think it's about time we give up on our archivecast@gmail.com address. I think, Steve. Okay, this is the deal. I think archivecast@gmail.com we'll check every once in a while, but probably the best way to get a hold of us really is going to be through the Facebook page.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the best option.
Now, maybe you're afraid of going on Facebook because they're going to steal your information. I got news for you. Every company has all your information already. It doesn't matter if you're on the internet or not. We already live in East Germany, so don't get precious about yourself, okay?
You still have to if you need to get in touch with us, just let all that go.
Yeah, just let all that go. So that's one thing I would say about feedback. And, Steve, I think it's time we talk about... I'm going to change the beginning of the show that we did before. So I will say I got some feedback from my dad. And
that's right, yeah.
I got feedback from my dad about the Blog Log Pod.
Yeah.
He doesn't know the difference between a podcast and a blog. He never has. So it's like, oh, Skybar, I liked your blog. But that was really exciting, to the point where he asked me to get him Wonder Bread cards for his birthday next month.
Huh.
So
awesome.
for my dad's 78th birthday, I'm getting him. I've actually already got it. I just got to figure out where I put it. A full set of the Wonder Bread cards. But we got a lot of good feedback from that episode. I really like it. It's just being a simple, straightforward, positive, and just episode.
Yeah.
And then also since then, Steve, we had the 2018 April Fool's episode. Okay.
The Polish cast?
Yes, the Polish cast. Okay, so this is what happened, okay? We thought it'd be funny because we always talk about interviewing Tommy if we actually just interviewed his sister. Now, Tommy's sister, if you listen to the episode as it's up now, is really a fascinating woman, and she actually also collects travel posters, and she's a lot like Tommy, just in the way that she has a lot of interest, and she's really smart and well-spoken and funny and all that stuff. So that seemed like a good gag, and then the fact that she collected nail polish seemed good. But Steve, I don't even think that we had the Polish joke already, did we?
I don't think so.
No, I think I came up with that after we recorded it.
Yeah, that was either right at the end or that was kind of on the fly.
Right. So the whole thing was that the joke that I put on the feed was Polish collectibles and the great Garvey interview.
Yeah, that was definitely cooked up after the fact.
Now, that is entirely accurate. It was about Polish collectibles, and it was about the great Garvey interview. So if you go to our feed, you can still listen to it now. I put it up there as one of our top 20 episodes. I really enjoy it. I do want to branch out and interview more collectors about other things that they collect.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting. And if it doesn't have to do with Star Wars, and if you don't like it, then you don't have to listen. But I love it. I want to talk to people who collect tikis and, orange crates and tape dispensers, all of that. Maybe not tape dispensers. So then the other thing that happened was the sound quality got really bad.
Yeah, that was a bit of a nightmare.
And so while I was recording it, I thought, well, wouldn't it be funny if I just made this episode as psychotic as possible? So there is a version of this podcast that you cannot find on the feed. You can only find it by going to the direct link, and I've basically kept that address secret. You can ask me if you want. Did you listen to it, Steve?
I did, yeah. I listened to it, I think April Fool's was Sunday. I think I listened to it on Monday morning at work.
What'd you think of it?
It was a very interesting experience. I'll say that. Trying to process and pick it apart. Some things I had headway with, and others I really didn't.
So I was just really goofing around with all these soundscapes and I did this.
So thing. What is that Bollywood bit that you were?
So there's some Bollywood song, and I don't know why it's on my computer.
Okay, see, I was driving myself mad trying to figure out, is this completely random, or what is this?
Now, there's a chance that it's a song that was sampled in a rap song, and then I found it, and then that's why I have it, so there's a chance that it's in a Kanye song.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's this really weird Bollywood song. Okay. And then I thought it'd be funny if I mixed in Your Blues by the Beatles, which we'll get into. This ended up having a lot to do with the feedback of it. And then this, what happened, Steve? Okay, so I'm also really into the Van Morrison album, Astral Weeks, okay?
Yeah.
It's the 50th anniversary of it coming out. And when he recorded it, all the lyrics, they sort of make sense, but not quite. Mm-hmm. And he wrote them, but also sort of didn't. It was kind of stream of consciousness. So I was putting these things together, and looking back at it, it actually is a cohesive story. So I mix it together, but then the thing that comes out on top of those two songs is the Logan Paul, who's this YouTuber who recorded someone committing suicide in Japan, and it's his online apology.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay,
I'm fascinated with the online apology, but it makes sense because that's the point where the episode goes off the rails. That's why I put that in there. But I didn't. Okay. At the time, I just thought this is funny. I didn't actually do it on purpose. And then there's this whole undercurrent of all these themes of loneliness and suicide, which actually infiltrate the whole thing. I don't really know why I was thinking about that. I guess I was lonely while I was recording it. And then later, I had this whole interview with Groucho Marx, which is just one of my favorite interviews with Dick.
I'd heard that before, and I recognized that. Yeah,
and just things just kind of mixed together. And then at the end, I ended it with Ted Williams talking about baseball.
Right.
And I realized that was me trying to end the show the way we normally end it, talking about baseball. But I wasn't thinking that, Steve. That's what's so messed up about it.
Yeah,
because in the middle of all that, I also had a whole bunch of French language
right, that's what I was, instructional, yeah.
Right, and that was kind of criticizing me and my obsession with language and the minutia that I go in there. And then in the other channel, I had medieval choral music. And anyway, and then
I was just trying to envision you doing this, and it was a slightly scary image. Singing, I don't know, but now that you're kind of explaining the pieces that I was missing, it makes a lot more sense.
Because it gave me free reign, because I said multiple times, do not listen to this.
Don't listen.
Don't. This is all a joke, and nothing good is going to come of it. And I was serious, except I know that some people who listen to the show, not a lot, but some people who listen to the show are really on board with the way that we do things. You know what I mean? And some are on board whenever I do these weird things, So I just thought, why not go completely into this? I put the entire song Angel Eyes, but I put it with this weird sound effect on it where it was like this high-pitched voice. Just
complete fugue state.
Yeah, complete fugue state. And then with like minutes and minutes upon minutes of silence. Did you hear the whisper track, Steve?
Yes.
So I put a whisper track in there with like a weird Easter egg, and a couple people have cashed in the Easter egg.
Yes, right.
That's over now that I've talked about it. So yeah. Anyway, but I got a lot of positive feedback and a lot of negative feedback, Steve. Multiple people said to me, Skye, this is like the White Album. You've got to stop. Now, first of all, Steve, being like the White Album is one of the greatest compliments you can give an artist. I mean, it's not my favorite Beatles album because, Revolver exists, but it may be my second favorite Beatles album.
Yeah, it's up there for me, too.
It is so good. And on top of that, it's like, I think people were saying that because I put Your Blues in the background, and like the weird sort of state I was trying to get people in while listening to it, the sort of psychotic state, I think that influenced them.
They're drawing that connection, yeah.
Drawing that connection. I got one message saying, you got to break up with Yoko, and my response was, I am Yoko. Like, in this situation, I can't break up with myself. Now, Steve could break up with me. That's fine. But I, yeah. So that was the debacle of the April Fool's episode. Yeah. It may have been the most fun I've had since like that was a lot of fun. I mean,
good. See, that's all that really matters, right?
I guess. That's the other bit. We're a couple times a year, Steve and I have a crisis about the show, like trying to wonder, are we doing things right?
I guess it had been a little while, right?
Yeah. So we're changing the name. We're going to change it to Steve's Vintage Toys Collecting the Archive with Skye and People. Yeah. This is a call to all of the Photoshop people.
It's all right. It's okay.
Please make a logo for our new name. Thank you. Once again, that's called Steve's Vintage Toys Collecting the Archive with Skye and People. Yeah.
It's all right. It's okay. Once you, I think at this point, when you hear the Weequay story coming together, you're gonna feel better. I really am hopeful for that.
Oh no! This episode I think is gonna be good. It's just gonna be a pain to edit because it was like 3 weeks ago that we talked about everything.
That's true. Yeah.
I may every once in a while put that little sound from the Bollywood thing.
I will say it got stuck in my head for sure.
I mean, I just randomly picked this one section of the...
Well, yeah, at one point I got confused for a second. It sounded like, when I heard it one way, it sounded like it was saying Katie Garvey.
Oh my God.
No. I had to like talk myself out of that. I think I was probably like 20 minutes in at that point. I'm like, okay, wait, let's stop.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, but and I also think too we haven't really done feedback a lot, and maybe we can put more of this sort of random gobbledygook talking, not necessarily about Star Wars toys, in the feedback area. Just or not, doesn't matter. Oh wait, we were going to talk about Polish bootlegs.
We could, sure. It shouldn't take too long. We do a crash course. Just because there were a few Weequay bootlegs in there. It's up to you. That's to me. I don't think it's necessary. It was just something I'd thrown in as a potential.
There's other characters with good Polish bootlegs, right?
Yeah, we could definitely, like, when we get into Biker Scout or whatever, we can. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Biker Scout. We should have John Alvarez on.
Yes.
Yes, and he can talk about Polish bootlegs.
Yes.
Oh,
there you go.
Perfect. Yes, because part of the idea was on this episode we were going to correct the Polish thing with the Polish thing. But we'll talk about Polish bootlegs when we get John Alvarez on to talk about the Biker Scout, because he is the Wooten of the Biker Scout.
Yeah. Yep.
But Biker Scout is not next, Steve.
No, wasn't it? It was Squidhead, wasn't it?
Actually, I forget. I knew 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I did too. I think it is Squidhead.
Oh, God. What are we going to talk about Squidhead?
Hey, it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay.
What? Oh, God, Steve. Squidhead.
Don't panic yet.
Squidhead. We're going to need help, Steve. Maybe we should just, have all new, all people we've never talked to before just come on and just scream Squidhead into the microphone.
There's a half good, half bad idea there.
Oh, man. Awesome. Well, then, come back and join us for the next episode, which is sure to be great as I denigrate it. Yeah, awesome. Well, I'll get to editing this. I have to give a talk in Pittsburgh next weekend.
Oh.
So hopefully I'll get this edited before then, but I have to do that. I'm going to be seeing Bill Cable and Ross Barr.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, so that'll be kind of a fun thing.
Yeah, good deal.
Yep. How about you, Steve? Anything good going on with you?
Nothing too exciting. No, nothing like that. Just home improvement projects.
Okay. Yeah. Like maybe improving your phone situation.
Yeah, that I keep trying and it just doesn't seem to get any better.
No.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Well, I do think there's one last thing to talk about, Steve.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's still not quite feeling right just yet.
So, Chivecast listeners, there's been one consistent thing. At the end of every episode, when there's baseball season, we talk about baseball and our fantasy baseball teams. And I can tell you the people who are happy about it, nobody.
No, but that's a universal truth.
And I can tell you who cares about it, not us. So, let's see how things are going right now in the Fantasy Baseball League. It's only been a weekend, and Steve is in 10th out of 11th place.
Hey, not last.
Not last. And I'm in 7th. So, not particularly good, but not terrible either.
It's early.
Considering the fact that my ace pitcher, Bumgarner, got injured a week after the draft, basically that sunk my entire season. So that's pretty rough. And then I just decided to just draft all Red Sox.
Yeah, that's a new tactic for you.
Well, because I love watching baseball, but fantasy baseball messes up the way you watch it.
It does, yeah.
So if I could just root for every player on my team, I don't care if I lose fantasy baseball, because every time Xander Bogaerts gets a hit, it makes me happy, So, yeah, that was my plan. All right, well, good, Steve. I think that is just about enough of that nonsense. Oh, which is good because your phone dropped out again. You and your home improvement. I swear. Are you going to get back on this phone call? I think you might. Because we were just about to...
Yes.
All right, Steve. So, literally, it's the very end. I've been trying to call you back now for a couple minutes. You figure out what you're doing there, and the Eagles' testes. And we'll get back to Squidward next month. All right. Wampa wampa.
Adios.
Slim, slow slider. Horsey ride. As white as snow. Slim, slow slider. Horsey ride. As white as snow. Tell it everywhere you go. Saw you walking down by Ladbroke Grove this morning. Saw you walking catching pebbles for some sandy beach. You're out of reach. Saw you early this morning with your brand new boy and your Cadillac. Saw you early this morning with your brand new boy and your Cadillac. You're gone for something, and I know you won't be back. I know you're dying, baby, and I know you know it too. I know you're dying, and I know you know it too. Every time I see you, I just don't know what to do.